So what caused that electrical breaker to go down? Well, it's something called a terminal block, and we actually have one here in the studio. Again, the House back in session this week. As early as tomorrow, they can reopen the government. A half hour past that deadline, and we are just getting word with breaking news from his attorney. CNS's Zion Williams joins us from the newsroom with that latest from his attorney, Zion. And through the power of technology and modern medicine, a local surgeon stepped in to give him a new, heartwarming outlook on life. And they expect a huge crowd of people during the tournament next summer, boosting the D.C. economy. All this food going to senior citizens, over 300 boxes, and it's all happening here on MLK Day, a day on, not a day off. And it all appears to come down to one simple wire that wasn't connected.
It's not something that would be normally looked at by a regular inspection.
20 months after the collapse of the Francis Scott Key Bridge, the National Transportation Safety Board voting on the probable cause.
We're talking about a very small component here, and this is what caused all the problems, the poor connection.
So let's break it down. We know about the Dolly cargo ship, and it departed the Seagirt Marine Terminal in Baltimore around 12:15 a.m. on March 26th. But while it was in the Fort McHenry Channel, the cargo ship experienced its first power failure. That was 1:25 a.m. It was an electrical breaker that went down and caused the ship to lose some equipment and lighting on board. But within a minute, the crew quickly restored power from generators on that ship. But then, as we all know, a second power failure occurred from those generators. This time, however, too late. The ship crashed into the Key Bridge at about 1:29 a.m. And that was only 4 minutes, again, after that first power failure. So what caused that electrical breaker to go down? Well, it's something called a terminal block, and we actually have one here in the studio. So we're here with CNS engineer Bill Parker. You've worked on these terminal blocks before, you've seen them. So what could have led to that power outage?
Well, here's your basic terminal block here. You have the signal that goes in and comes out. If any of these cables are disconnected, it interrupts the flow of the signal, which will cause a failure.
Well, there you go. A simple loose wire in the terminal block caused the ship the size of an Eiffel Tower to crash into the Key Bridge.
It was this specific wire and its location was the reason why the breaker tripped.
The NTSB also voted to approve 17 recommendations for all cargo ships. The most notable, the adoption of infrared imaging on board. They say it could have detected the loose cable and may have prevented the bridge collapse.
The fact is, none of us should be here today. This tragedy should have never occurred.
The official probable cause comes a day after the MDTA says the bridge rebuild will now cost an estimated $5 billion. That's double the original cost, and they also say the timeline for the rebuild will also extend 2 years to 2030. Eddy Calkins, CNS TV.
We are filing a lawsuit.
Washington, D.C. or Greenbelt, Maryland. The battle for the FBI's next headquarters is now heading to court. Less than a week after a congressional committee voted,
and the yeas are 10 and the nays are 9,
for D.C.'s Ronald Reagan building to host the headquarters.
The building is too old, it is too small, and it is too exposed. So what then does the president do? He decides to move the FBI building to another building that is too old, too small, and too exposed.
The state of Maryland is suing the Trump administration, saying the FBI headquarters in Greenbelt was already approved and funded by Congress, and that Trump has no right to intervene in the decades-long process.
The state pledged approximately $250 million for improvements to transportation infrastructure. Prince George's County pledged over $100 million in funding of its own.
Earlier this summer, President Trump and the FBI announced that this parking lot right here would no longer be the site for the headquarters. This was after the Biden administration back in 2023 committed $3.5 billion to this Greenbelt metro station. So you can understand why Maryland lawmakers are trying to keep it in Maryland.
We won the project fairly, and we will not let this administration steal jobs and opportunities from Prince George's County and Maryland.
Pros and cons for both sides. The Greenbelt metro station would have to be built from the ground up, but it would ensure maximum security.
In 2013, the FBI itself, in a hearing,
said that they required a level 5 security in order to go to, and that was the reason that we were moving in the first place from Washington, D.C.
The Ronald Reagan building would have to undergo severe renovations, and while it's predicted to cost half of the Greenbelt site, it would potentially kick out existing agencies in the building.
Moving the FBI headquarters and consolidating other FBI leases from this area into the Ronald Reagan building will undoubtedly save billions of dollars.
In Greenbelt, Eddy Calkins, CNS TV. This Beltsville middle school teacher won Jeopardy last week. Who is Joseph Evans?
It might have been fun to be known as the crying guy on Jeopardy, because I was about that point.
Evans was down by $6,000 in Final Jeopardy.
You know, I didn't know that Jeopardy of literary characters. I didn't quite know the line.
But he knew the answer. Who is Scrooge? And his wager of $6,529 paid off.
I knew that going into it, it was just a matter of I had to be right and Aaron had to be wrong. The wager that I had put on there referenced my mother-in-law who passed away a number of years ago, so I think she was with me in that time.
Evans teaches history at Tacoma Park Middle School and had to keep it a secret until the show aired on November 4th.
I did tell the kids, I said, if you behave for the sub, I'll tell you where I was. I have to go for something.
But Evans' winning streak only lasted one match. But he still won almost $20,000.
Thankfully, we had lunch in between my episodes, so I could kind of just sit there eating my, very leafy salad. My husband and my sister were there with us.
An experience and Final Jeopardy answer he'll never forget.
Bah humbug. When Ken said bah humbug. I didn't realize what Aaron wrote until much later. I just heard bah humbug and then things turned into a fog. So I'll probably remember that a lot.
Eddy Calkins, CNS TV.